All right, what's going on this morning? It's a Monday morning, and boy, does it feel like a Monday morning. Barely awake. My eyes, you may say they're never open, but I'm trying to open them a little wider. I forgot my glasses at home, so I have these things, kind of Ben Franklin glasses. Could have sworn I put them in my backpack, but Monday morning. So we're going to take a day-long break from Flowers for Algernon, and we'll get into a new set of vocabulary words, 15 words. There is a common theme, and that is philes and phobias, more Latin and Greek roots. Phobia, probably are aware of, right? That means a fear of something. So we're going to have a couple more Latin and Greek roots that we'll attach to phobia. And I don't know how many exactly there are, but there are probably about 10 Latin and Greek roots in this. And then also phile. So love of something. Now, sometimes that love may be bad. Like, well, I don't think it's one of our words, but I mean, obviously everyone knows pedophile, and ped might be foot, but pedo is usually with a child. Like a podiatrist is a foot doctor. But yeah, Monday morning. What's the kids doctor? Pediatrician. So a little bit of a difference there. So pediatrician, kid doctors, podiatrist, foot doctor, pedophile, someone who loves kids in a bad way. So phile can be, we'll get to some, like a bibliophile is someone who loves books, and that would be in a good way. But sometimes those philes, a doctor might be involved, things like that. So phobias and phobias also, maybe a doctor's involved in that too. Extreme fear. All right, let's get into what I want to share with you here. Boom. All right. So you'll see that the first couple have nothing to do with philes or phobias. These are just like good words to know. So for. Anytime you see that Latin and Greek root, think kind of like before or ahead. So foresight, if you look at that, is the ability to predict what will happen or be needed in the future. Now you can see there's a person there with a crystal ball. So yeah, but you might say something like, oh, he had the foresight to study before the quiz. Like he knew that he would need that studying time. So to have foresight means being able to plan for things before they happen. Just like, look at this. Yeah, it's not that hard to see. Forehead, it's like the front. It's in the front of your head. Some people may say I have a 5 head. That would be very mean if you did. That would be mean. Forehead at the front. Okay, before. All right. Next one here. Fortnite. So this is just not used that often anymore. The real definition. Obviously, we all know Fortnite, the game. You have to be sleeping under a rock not to know that. But at one time, and especially if you ever read Shakespeare in high school and you hear a fortnight, it's simply a 2-week period. All right. Fortnight. You might hear something like, oh, I mean, not today, but I have a fortnight of vacation coming up. It's just a 2-week period. The next one, tariff. This might be coming up in Mr. Bim's class, but a tariff. So let's talk about this. You first need to know what an import is. So imports are goods coming into a country. Exports are goods going away, going out of a country, both for trade. People want to make money on them. But a tariff would be, let's say we have an American car company. Let's call it Ford, okay? So, but everything's so global now. But Ford, let's pretend that's just strictly an American car company. And let's say that Toyota, that's a Japanese car company. So maybe, I'm going real simple here, maybe it costs $10,000 to produce a Ford car, really cheap. And maybe it only costs $8,000 to produce the car over in Japan, Toyota, and to ship it over here. So what the government might do is put a tariff on that car so that American car companies can compete with Japanese car companies, so that everybody's not just simply buying Japanese cars because they're so much cheaper. A tariff is a tax on goods coming into the country to make it more fair for American businesses. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a bit complicated, a little bit of economics going on in there, but hopefully I did a good enough job. All right, the next one, rigid, not flexible. So this could be two ways. It could be literally rigid. I don't have it right now, but I got one over here. But a rule, you all know, I don't need to go grab a ruler, but you probably know what a ruler is, or like a yardstick. I mean, that thing's not flexible. If you try to bend it, it's going to break. So it's pretty rigid. A yardstick is pretty rigid. But you might also have, like, if your parents are rigid, it's another term for like strict. Like they're not very flexible. They don't really let you bend the rules at all. So rigid. Yeah, maybe there is you have a rigid deadline for work that's due. There's no flexibility there. It is due on Friday. If you don't have it in by then, it's going to be counted as late. So very rigid when it comes to the rules. Hopefully that helps. All right, let's make it bigger here. We got chronic. This means continuing for a long time. So somebody coming to school may have chronic absences, like they're late or they're not here often. Chronic absences. Chronic tardies would be that they are often late to school. You might have chronic back pain. You might have chronic headaches. I hope you don't, but that's what that means. Chronic means happening often, happening over a long period of time. There are chronic complaints coming into the office. It's just happening all the time. Hopefully that helps. The next one, confide. All right, 2 words here. We're only talking about confide, but there's also, that would be the verb. It's something you do. You might confide in a friend, and hopefully that friend is trusted to keep your secret. So when you confide in someone, it means you're sharing a secret. That person is a confidant. A confidant is someone you share secrets with. But we only have that one word, and that is confide. It means to trust another with information or a secret. So if someone confides in you, they are trusting you to keep that secret. Hope that helps. Going through these rather quickly, but I think I just am nailing the definitions. Hopefully, we are going quickly. Hopefully, you're able to fill those papers out, the study guides. But if not, there will be sheets in the back room that have all the definitions and the words. And also, if you're not a paper person, it's going to be right on Google Classroom, just like always. I don't know, what is this, the 10th time maybe we've done this? The next one is lucid. Lucid. Am I sharing this? Yes, I am. Lucid, easy to understand, clear, rational, sane. All right, couple ways we might use lucid. You might have a lucid dream. So when you're sleeping, it's very clear. It's almost like it's actually happening to you. A lucid dream, be very clear, very realistic. Let's say, ooh, this is happening soon for some of you. You'll be getting your wisdom teeth out. And for your wisdom teeth, anytime they're going to be plucking things from your mouth, you want to be out. You don't want to be conscious. You don't want to be lucid. So if you are lucid during an operation, it means you know everything that is going on. I don't think you want to be lucid if you're getting your wisdom teeth out. Another way you might hear it is like, oh, for an older person, he's still very lucid. Or if somebody we've been talking a lot about the brain, but if somebody has Alzheimer's disease or dementia and they're losing their mind, they might have bad days, but they might have good days. And when they have good days, you can describe them as lucid. They realize what is going on around them. So let's take a look at that definition one more time. Easy to understand, clear, rational, sane. And we often use lucid when the opposite is usually true. So during an operation, you should not know what's going on. It should not be clear to you. Lucid. All right. Tough one, I think. Tough one to use, at least. All right. Now we get into a little bit of the phlies and phobias. So the first one here is a bibliophile. Bibliophile definitely comes from the Latin there. If you've ever taken French, a bibliothèque is a library. So biblio definitely comes from the Latin. And a lot of those Latin languages, sometimes we call them Romance languages from Rome, Romance languages. Languages like French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian. Biblio, whenever you see that, think of book. So in English, a bibliophile is a person who loves books. It'd be nice if you were bibliophiles. I know that there are very few of them, but hey, I appreciate the few that we have. Bibliophiles just really love books. Not too hard, I think. If you know file and you know biblio. So a bibliophobe, or if you have bibliophobia, the opposite can work. So that would be an extreme fear of books. Hope you don't have that. I could see maybe where you would, but all right, the next one, without my glasses, it looks like heliophile, a heliophile. So anytime you see helio in a word, automatically think maybe something to do with the sun. So a heliophile is someone who loves the sun. And if you are a heliophile right now, the beginning of December, you are not happy because we are probably inside at school most of the time during the week when the sun is out. Yeah, so heliophiles, you must love summer, but you probably hate this time of year if you are a heliophile. Now, there might be some people that are heliophobes or they have heliophobia. Fortunately, it's rare, but unfortunately, there are some people that are actually allergic to the sun. So they have to stay inside. Very rare, but every so often they will make the news. The next one, retro. You may know this Latin and Greek root already. Retro, old, back in the day, olden days, retro. So retrophile is someone who just loves old things. Maybe you are a retrophile. I think I was growing up. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, but I always thought, man, I wish I grew up in the 60s. That seemed like so much more fun. Pretty volatile, but if you studied any history of the 60s, but it just seemed like it would be kind of fun. So I was always more of a retrophile growing up. Maybe not so much now, but my favorite band, probably still to this day, was the Beatles. So I was born like 5 years after the Beatles disbanded or broke up. But, if you are a fan of music like Nirvana, Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, you might be a retrophile too. You may be thinking, man, I should have grown up in the 90s, or I should have grown up in the early 2000s. If that's you, then you might be a retrophile. Retrophobe, the opposite works. You're scared of old things. Old things, not old people. That would be something different. Usually when you're talking about older people, geriatric is somewhere in there. So if I don't know what the word is, but it's something like geriatrophile. I don't know. Maybe look it up. Means you love old people. Oh, I'm not going to get into it. I saw TikTok, man, last night. Like, what? TikTok should not make me cry, but I got some tears. There was an older man. He was maybe you've seen this one, selling newspapers for donations. There were these little sheets of paper. They weren't exactly big newspapers, but he had his newspaper bag on. He was an older man, probably 70s, maybe. And this guy was like, hey, I want to buy paper from you. And he like actually gave him $500. And the guy started breaking down and crying. And then he's like, because you were so nice, I want to give you another $500. And he's like, I can't do that. He's like, oh man, I love you. He's like, it's been a long time since I heard those words. I'm like, oh man, seemed like the kindest guy ever. So I started I don't even know what the guy's name is that gives out money, but I don't know. It was nice. So I don't know. How do we get on that? Geriatric. If somebody is geriatric, it's another way to say that they're really old. All right, moving on. Umbraphile. An umbraphile. Umbra is basically in a lot of those Latin languages means shadow. Umbra. We get umbrella. Okay. So an umbraphile is someone who loves eclipses. And you might have to travel around the world to see those eclipses, but an umbraphile is someone who travels around the world just to see an eclipse because they're pretty rare, at least the solar eclipses. So I just wanted you to know Umbra. Anytime you see that, think shadow, like umbrella. All right, the next one, moving along here. Acrophile. Acrophile. And that is the fear of heights. Who knows? Maybe you have a fear of heights. I do too, if you do. Yeah. Every year we used to go to Monkey See, Monkey Do. And I actually wasn't scared up there because we were like tethered in and it seemed very safe. But I can imagine being in like a hot air balloon would scare the crap out of me. I don't know about you, but oof. Heights, not a huge fan unless it's under the right conditions. The next one, again, not a fan. Make it bigger. Right at the top, arachnophobia speaks for itself. The fear of spiders. I'm scared of everything, but yeah, I'm not a fan of spiders either, especially the hairy ones. No, good. Daddy long legs, what we have in Maine, whatever. They're a nuisance. They're not going to hurt you. Those hairy ones with the fangs, I'm sure there's some people that love them. So you could be an arachnophile. So you could be an arachnophobe. You could have arachnophobia, or you could be an arachnophile. You just love spiders. Love spiders. All right, the next one. Necro. Anytime you see necro, think death. There is a necropolis. Anytime you see opolis, think city. There is a necropolis outside of San Francisco. And basically trying to make this bigger. The land in San Francisco is so expensive that there are very few people buried in San Francisco. In fact, in 2022, there are no people buried. It's just way too expensive. There are some graves and stuff that were grandfathered in and they weren't moved, but there is a necropolis outside of San Francisco where there are like 2,000 people that live there, but then hundreds of thousands of people that are buried there. So a necropolis is basically a city of just dead people, mostly graves. So San Francisco is one of those cities that does have a necropolis. So if you are necrophobic, or if you have necrophobia, that means your fear of dead things. I hope you're not a necrophile. That would be a little bit, you love dead things. That might be concerning. But necrophobia right here is the fear of death or dead things. So I imagine a necrophile would hate Halloween. The next one and the last one, I love to say this word. Yep, it is cacophony. Cacophony. Great word. Cacophony. It just means a bunch of bad noises all at the same time. And if you see that picture, that band probably isn't good if they are making a cacophony. It's just a bunch of like bad sounds all at once. I don't think your parents would ever do that. But if you had a bunch of friends over and it was just really loud in your room, they might say, what is this cacophony that's going on? Probably not. All right, 20 minutes almost. Yeah, 20 minutes. Lots of words, but hopefully lots of learning. Rewatch this thing if you want, right? So much information. I can clearly see a lot of people going home tonight rewatching this thing. Get wicked smart. All right.